Hello, ICPEL friends. This is Beverly Irby, and I'm Regents Professor and Associate Dean at the College of Education and Human Development at Texas A&M University. Today, I'll be sharing a presentation about some research that we have conducted on virtual professional development. My colleagues could not be with us today. However, their names are Elizabeth Puglisi, Hamada El Faraji, Rafael Lara Alessio, and Fu Wei Tong. So these are our researchers on this particular paper. The Virtual Professional Development, Promoting Texas School Leaders and Teachers' Advocacy for English Learners. That's our title of our presentation today. This study begins with the students in Texas who are identified as English learners, and that's almost 18%, and sometimes noted as 19% with our state data. Project Massive Open Online Professional Individualized Learning is a U.S. Department of Education, Office of English Language Acquisition grant, and it began in the fall of 2017. Its purpose is to advance the knowledge and capacity of teachers and school leaders to understand and meet the needs of English learners. It is under the Education Leadership Research Center, which is in the Department of Educational Administration and Human Resource Development in our CEHD at Texas A&M. And over the past 3 years, we have served over 1,000 Texas educators with 90 virtual professional development or VPD modules. Now, we call our professional development online virtual professional development. Some people call it online professional development, but we like to call ours VPD because we also have virtual mentoring and coaching, or VMC. We have virtual observations in classrooms of teachers. We have virtual observations of preparing leaders with teachers, and that's called VOBs, or virtual observations. And we also have what we call VPLCs, virtual professional learning communities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. So the purpose of this specific study was to understand how such VPD contributed to, one, promoting the participants' thinking about the assistance they could offer in building instructional capacity for ELs at their schools, and two, about enhancing the participants' capacity to advocate for programs for ELs at their schools. We also investigated how the similarities and differences of the VPD impact were informed by the roles of the participants. So our three research questions were: how did VPD promote the participants' thinking about the assistance they could offer in building instructional capacity for ELs at their schools? I'm going to stop there for just a moment because our participants were not only campus leaders, but they were also teachers in this particular study. And we consider our teachers in our project as teacher leaders, and we are developing them as leaders. So we'll talk a little bit more about that too a little later. But the second question was, to what extent did the VPD contribute to enhancing the participants' capacity to advocate for program models for ELs at their schools? And then how are the similarities and differences of VPD impact informed by the roles of the participants? And then methods and research design. So this was a qualitative study using a collective case study, and it was appropriate because it did allow us to analyze those responses. We used a survey, open-ended survey that we sent to the participants after they completed the VPD. So it is a post hoc type of a study, but with qualitative research methods. So the participants were 70 educators in this study. 59 were teachers, and we consider those as teacher leaders. And 11 were educators who were in leadership positions, 2 administrators, 2 program coordinators, 4 ESL facilitator coaches, and 3 instructional specialists. And they participated in a VPD on educating ELs and advocating for their academic and social emotional success. So specifically, they engaged in a MOOPL module and VPD, and it was called Leadership for ELs, Dual Language Rationale and Research Base. And then as we talk about these leaders, we replace their names with codes. So you'll see that. If you see leader, that means that they were one of the administrators on the campus. And then if you see teacher, that would be one of the teacher leaders on the campus. So we collected data from the participants to 5 survey questions. And those were, how familiar were you with the content presented in this module? And how has the content from this module changed or supported your thinking regarding providing primary language instruction to English learners? How has the content from this module changed or supported your thinking regarding program models for English learners? And then how might knowing about the benefits of primary language instruction help you advocate for ELs at your school? And how might you advocate for strong program models for English learners? So there were 2 predetermined themes that we used, and those are down at the bottom of this paragraph, but they were VPD, promoting thinking about EL assistance, and those are all in the questions, and then the research questions, and then VPD, enhancing their capacity for advocation for those models. And so those were our themes, and we divided and analyzed, extracted, and categorized responses. Now, to advance the trustworthiness of the study, we actually had a couple of the researchers go in, and then what we did was we came back together and we discussed those findings, and we came to consensus on the findings. So the first research question was about VPD promoting educators' thinking about assistance for English learners. So we found the educators' perceptions of how VPD promoted thinking for assisting ELs were divided into 2 areas. Promoting thinking for improving primary language instruction, or L1, so that would be the native language, and promoting thinking regarding program models for ELs. Both the leaders and teachers explained the VPD promoted their knowledge on how integrating such programs in their schools could aid teachers in developing students' L1 and L2 languages, or L2 would be English. So in Texas, mainly we are working with L1 as Spanish and L2 as English. Leader 4 stated, the information in this module supported my belief that L1 and L2 go hand in hand when it comes to language acquisition. Teacher 14 noted, we should preserve the home language as much as possible. Bilingualism is something that students should be proud of as a part of their culture. And we are finding that it is a part of their identity. And so to take that identity away is really very shameful. So additionally, some leaders and teachers indicated the VPD changed their thinking about L1 instruction, and that was good. And they explained how initially they thought teaching students in their L1 could negatively impact their learning for L2. But the content in the VPD helped them to understand the importance of maintaining and nurturing the native language. Many leaders' perceptions suggested the VPD advanced or confirmed their advocacy for the promotion of models for English learners. Leader 1 mentioned, This module makes me think that all programs should be dual language. I am now wondering how to create this type of program for all students. However, some educators acknowledge the benefits of bilingual programs for ELs, but were apprehensive as to whether or not they would be able to implement those English learner programs. So they cited the district as having the power to determine what programs would be used. And we did discuss that with them. Leader 1 noted, the content has not changed, but supported my thinking. But many times we must adapt to what our district or superiors think, since they have control and not us as individuals. But what we wanted to get across is that these leaders and these teachers can chip away at that understanding, that basic understanding, and build on that as they work through these understandings and these learnings, so that then it becomes this grassroots movement, and it's not just one individual advocating, or as some people call it, becoming some sort of rabble rouser around there, but that it becomes a joint and supported effort to support the English learner programs and the types of programs that would be beneficial on the campuses. Teachers' perceptions of their role in building instructional capacity for English learners seem to be mainly focused on educating their colleagues and parents on the importance of bilingual programs. So it was the leaders were more focused on helping the teachers, and the teachers were focused on helping their fellow teachers to understand. Educator 36 or Teacher 36 indicated, I can tell parents and other educators about the information so they will be informed. That's a key finding, because now the teachers are wanting to share information with others to help others to be informed. Such findings on leaders and teachers' perceptions indicate the VPD promoted their thinking about how they could better assist English learner students, and how implementation of dual language bilingual programs could help English learner students advance L2 as well as L1. So our findings are also supported by those of Kim, Erickson, Button, and Hinchy, and bring to light the hurdles which may inhibit the implementation of such programs in schools. So therefore, the VPD appeared to do what it was designed to do, to help those leaders and teachers to think about how they could assist English learners on their campuses. Research question 2, VPD enhancing educators' capacity for advocating for program models for English learners. We found this. Most leaders reported how the VPD enhanced their capacity to advocate for program models. We talked a little bit about advocacy in the prior one as well. Leader 3 mentioned, I can use the information learned in this module to reiterate to teachers the importance of L1 development and how it helps the acquisition of L2. Teacher 2 stated, if a student qualifies for a bilingual program, they often waive the services, meaning the parents do, because the campus they would go to is so far away. I think it is important to have a bilingual program on a closer campus because the program is so effective. And they also indicated, some of them talked to us about the fact that they wanted to have those programs on their own campus, and how could they advocate for that so that the children did not have to leave the campus. Teachers' advocacy for EL program models seem to be focused on educating their teacher colleagues on the benefits of those programs. And I mentioned that just a few minutes ago, that they were more focused on working with their fellow colleagues. Teacher 54 stated, I can advocate by sharing research and best practices on the different and most effective language models and offer support and training to make them successful. I wanted to talk just a little bit about our modules, our MOOCL modules in VPD that we have. We have a process that we use in our VPD, and it's called LEADER. It's leading question or questions. It's engagement, applied research, discussion, examples, and reflection. So in our VPLCs, our PLCs and VPLCs, we believe that in order to really be a professional learning community, you must have information coming into that learning community. Because often I say, you know, if we are just sitting around talking about what's going on or giving those examples, which is a part of our LEADER, but if we're only giving examples or we're only talking about our data, we're not looking at what the current researchers are saying, then perhaps we just keep going round and round, and we just sort of become like butter. We really don't have all of the ingredients in to make a beautiful cake and to improve upon the education of the children in our school, in our classrooms. So we want to bring all those ingredients in. So we have the LEADER model. The last step is reflection. And then there are 5 steps within that last step, or that last component. And that's what the Brown and Irby reflection cycle. And the last, very, very last step is transform. So we want our teachers and leaders who are in our VPD to transform and to think about, excuse me, where they are going to go from here. How will they improve? How will they advocate? How will they help build capacity for their fellow teachers or for their teachers on their campus, and so on. So that's where we're headed with this particular MOOCL practice that we do. It's quite clear that educators perceive the content knowledge in the designated VPD provided the necessary information to advocate for EL program models. So we were very pleased with that finding. And when leaders have a solid understanding of how to support ELs and have considered advocating for successful programs, they are in a better position to appropriately serve the needs of ELs. And that's McIntyre, Kyle, Chin, Munoz, and Belden. And that was in 2010. So we have found that with our qualitative study, again, in 2020. So research question 3, similarities and differences of school leaders and teachers' perceptions on VPD. So there were similarities between leaders and teachers related to the impact of the VPD on their thinking, related to ELLs and how they can contribute to building instructional capacities in their schools. And these similarities were mainly related to educating teachers and parents on EL's needs and how they can assist them, which is also supported by Van Rokel in 2011. However, differences between leaders and teachers on their advocacy for the program models for ELs were also found. So leaders reported that they have the ability to have more impact in advocacy for their programs at their school level and district levels, possibly due to their status level, their position of authority, and the teachers' advocacy seemed to be more local and individualized and focusing with educating their teacher colleagues and parents on how such programs can help English learners. So the findings promote the thinking and advancing of the knowledge of educators in leadership positions, and we include teachers, through the VPD provided. Perceptions towards program models advocating for EL students at their schools could provide different perspectives to EL program designers at the district level. We, saw them mention the district or people above them. So what we want to do is build a grassroots and also share this information with district program designers. And that would be based on the best characteristics of such interventions and approaches to meeting the needs of English learners. Some of the participants indicated that a change in thinking was related to initially focusing on L2 or English only. And this is really significant in the turnaround in thinking about how do we work with English learners on the best research-based types of programs that we could have on our campuses. However, the VPD altered their thinking and helped them refine their thoughts that were informed by the research presented and the discussions in the VPD. They were able to better understand how L1 and L2 are important in EL instruction. They also learned about how using the first language can scaffold the understanding in the second language as well. They also determined that they could advocate for better programming on their own campuses. And when teachers have an understanding of bilingual ESL programs, they can better advocate for such programs on their campuses. And not noted here, but when leaders also have better understandings, they too can better advocate for such programs on their campuses and in their districts and with the district personnel. So those are our findings, and we hope that our VPD, if you're interested in learning about it, we're happy to share about the MOOPLs and happy to share that out with you, and so that you can share that with the participants who are also in your programs as you are developing instructional leaders. So we would be just really pleased to share this information and maybe come into one of your program meetings and actually share how we do the MOOPLs and to share those as well. They are free in this program. So, and they are also, remember, for teachers, leaders, administrators, paraprofessionals, and parents as well. So we hope you've enjoyed this and have a wonderful time in the other sessions. Thank you on behalf of all of our team members. Thanks.